Hello YouTube and welcome to another episode of The Cloudy Vape. In this video, we're going to do a vlog kind of talking about what vaping could be, what vaping might be, and frankly if we don't really respond to what's going on in legislations, what's going on in local municipalities, state municipalities, it's going to go downhill really quickly. So, just to start off with, this is my brother. I'm going to call him No Name Nimbus. Since I'm cloudy, he's a Nimbus. So, first thing we're going to talk about, which every other reviewer is talking about, are these beautiful things that we both have used years ago when we were nicotine fiends.
Yes.
So, here, I'll give you this one. That is a Vuse, one of those Vuse solos you've probably seen and other reviewers do. And this is a... This is an Enjoy, I have no idea what it's called. Basically, it's an Enjoy rechargeable little thing. Now, just to note, Enjoy is not big tobacco. Enjoy has, free market type stuff. They have liquids. I'm sure you've seen reviews of Enjoy liquids and stuff like that. So, just talking about cig-a-lights, because regardless of anything happening, if these pending regulations, these deeming regulations come through, these are what we're going to be left with. So regardless of what company, definitely big tobacco is probably going to take over because that's the biggest push against e-cigarettes, even though they have our market for it. But without more yapping about it, let's have a little vape. Is this a bone?
Yeah. Like it's not bad. It's not, if I pick this up from a gas station having just bought a pack of cigarettes and I bought this as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind this. This would be like, oh nice, this is cool. But after using, sub-ohm mods for years now, it just pales in comparison. It's just big tobacco shot at it, as far as this one at least.
Yeah. I just think, I guess I haven't smoked an analog cigarette in such a long time that, I can't really say if it's compares, I guess you've smoked more recently than I have. Not recently, but more recently than I have. More consistently than I have. And I can't remember what the feeling of a cigarette felt like, you know what I mean? Because I'm so used to something like this. But, I mean, you would honestly say could this help you get off smoking?
Well, these did help me get off smoking originally, because when I first tried these, I mean, it's kind of a long, drawn-out process, but you remember when I first picked one of these up, they were like $100 and something bucks. You could buy them at little kiosks in the mall kind of deal.
Yeah.
And, I think I messed with one of these for probably 4 or 5 months, and then the battery started going out, and I didn't want to make a big investment again, and I just went right back to cigarettes because it was easy to get, accessible, all of that.
But would you say that innovation has changed on these?
Oh, drastically. Absolutely.
Well, I mean...
Oh, not on those, no. As far as e-cigarettes...
Yeah.
As far as e-cigarettes, yeah. But these are the exact same things.
Yeah, I mean, they taste exactly like the same thing.
10
Actually, I think
ago,
the original ones probably tasted better than this.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I remember back when they first came out, just popping off this little cap here and just putting my own juice into it, and I found that to be a little bit more tolerable than...
Yeah. Well, someone was just talking about that, because, most of these you can pop out and refill. And so, the big push in the whole open market system, they're, only closed market devices, closed liquid devices, but this you can pop off and fill yourself.
Yeah.
So in the sense, they're, not even really looking at this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I mean, this is refillable. You can take it apart and fill it up, and you can rebuild it if you really want to.
You can take them apart and you can refill them. They're not necessarily designed for that. It's not easy to do. It's not something like, boom, I take this off, I stick my juice in it, I stick the cap back on. The cap is made to come on and off. It's got a rubber gasket to seal it.
Yeah.
That whole process, this is basically made to incentivize buying new cartridges at least as far as the majority of these little gas station e-cigarettes are. At least that's what I call them. You can find those now at just about any place.
They're gas cigarettes?
Yeah.
So they're like getting...
Yeah.
I think of it like, at least if you think about like AM, PM in California, like you would never buy gas station food. I mean, in Texas, they have a lot of chains that are in gas stations now, but I kind of look at these e-cigarettes like gas station food. Like you're just saying, like you basically, it's, even though it's supposed to be this big name company created these, they're really like, they're saying that there's additives and flavoring and all that stuff in them, but even just vaping a high nic, like, you know, like both of us, we were vaping 24 when we first started. We were dripping 24.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of vapors that, you know, sub-ohm drip 24, and you don't get this nasty feeling.
Yeah.
You don't get this nasty throat thing that's going on. Like my sinuses are getting messed up. Like, you don't get that out of this. So what are they putting in this? Is it... Maybe it's just a wicking? Are they just using the ingredients that are in normal e-liquid?
Yeah, part of it kind of seems like when you try and hit this, the restriction on this is so like... And I've heard so many people who smoke cigarettes, you hand them one of these things, and they're like, you know, I gotta suck the shit out of this just to get anything to happen. Yeah. And it's like, just the design of it to me is, you know, at this point pretty outdated if you know anything about the e-cigarette market. Because it's like you can find so many different things to cater to whatever your preference is, and you know, as far as these go, like nothing's really new about them. You can pop the top off. There's some cotton in there. You can juice it up, but at the same time, like the restriction of it, I almost feel like it hurts my throat to sit here and try and use one of these. Not in the same way, like not the way the vapor feels, but I feel like I'm sucking on it so hard that I'm almost like collapsing my windpipe. You know what I mean? Like. It's just got like a really uncomfortable feel when you try and use it.
You almost get like a buzz just from the inhalation.
Yeah, you feel like you're trying to hold your breath and suck in at the same time. Like,
yeah, I don't know. So anyways, what we're trying to talk about, I know we're just having a conversation, but what we're trying to talk about is basically, like we started on these, technically. I mean, I don't really consider this vaping, you know what I mean? Like I don't consider this vaping because it's, I don't know, it's just not the same, you know what I mean? Even buying coil heads for, you know, your sub tanks or your pro tanks, I don't feel like it's the same, you know, because you don't have any choice. You just buy it and you have to use it. Yeah. Even with like pro tank coil heads, you're kind of stuck with proprietary coil heads. You can rebuild them, but at the same time, you can pick whatever flavor you want. You can rebuild them. You can buy them, and they're at least, like, this cartridge, $5, I would much rather buy a $5 coil head, you know what I mean, than a sub-tank. But that's neither here nor there. But basically, what we're going to talk about now is about the future of vaping, because everyone's talking about this, trying to, I guess, get people excited and riled up. And yeah, we should be, but, I mean, the thing is, once you quit smoking... And if you already have, say, a testimony going on that, you know, I've been smoking for 10 years and now I'm a vapor, you have something to share with somebody. If you feel better, I know me personally, I feel better because I stopped smoking. I know he feels better because he stopped smoking. There's plenty of people that feel much better, and there's even, you know, people who go to their doctors and they feel way better because they quit smoking and they started vaping. And it's just like this whole theory that the regulations are trying to demonize this and create this into some type of drug. And basically, like a quote from a senator was something like, you know, e-cigarettes are as addictive as heroin. It's like, I read something like that. It's just like,
that's not even worth taking seriously.
I know, it's just like, you want to laugh because you can't even argue that. You can't even, besides, you're stupid. But then that just makes you look stupid because you have to call somebody stupid.
First of all, it shows that guy's extreme ignorance on the addictive nature of heroin, for one, and the supposed addictive nature of nicotine.
Yeah.
But when we keep in mind that a majority of the studies that have been done on nicotine over the years have actually been done on cigarettes, which contain, you know, hundreds, if not several thousand additional additives on top of nicotine, you know, that's like trying to test water and say that there's one little molecule in it and that's making all the effects of whatever it is you're testing, and just ignoring everything else that's in it.
Yeah.
The only way to actually know what the deal with nicotine is to actually study nicotine isolated in and of itself. And so for people who cite studies that were done in, the 70s and 80s and 90s about nicotine, it's one thing to say that it was studied, but the thing that a lot of people don't take into account is the fact that these studies were based on cigarettes and not nicotine, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's not to mention the fact that how much misinformation there is on nicotine itself. Nicotine itself is within the drug classification of a nootropic, which is the same classification as caffeine. We know lots about how caffeine affects us. We know that it affects our cognitive functions in a positive way. We know that it affects high motor skills. We know that there are numerous benefits to caffeine, and the same exact things can apply to nicotine, and there's numerous peer-reviewed empirical studies that show that. And to me, when you listen to some senator who's being paid by lobbyists who are from big tobacco, and they're making arguments where they're calling nicotine a neurotoxin and yada yada yada, it's like, if you have to resort to making not even illogical arguments, but downright false arguments that can be proven to be otherwise, then you're going into the realm of sophistry, where you're just trying to make a horrible argument sound like it's a good argument because you use fear tactics and trigger words.
Those same people probably go get a cup of coffee from Starbucks.
Absolutely.
With an extra shot of espresso.
Yeah.
And technically, they're probably, quote, ODing on caffeine.
Yeah. Well, and to keep in mind, like, you've got people who are talking about, like, we like to use the trigger word drugs. We should first just put forward the premise that, within at least the United States, the term drugs is so blown out of proportion and taken so far out of context that most people don't even know what that means. Like, when you actually, read studies and read things that are written by people who are, who actually do study drugs, like you've got, there's Dr. Carl Hart, who's done numerous documentaries, written books. There was a book that he wrote called High Price, and it's talking about the effects of drugs on society. And he makes one of the statements that, one, there's never been such thing as a drug-free society. Two, you wouldn't want to live in a drug-free society because that means there's no aspirin, there's no Tylenol, And we like to demonize even other drugs and not talk about them rationally. And it's like, oxycodone or Oxycontin, which is a chemical variation of heroin. We demonize those things, but say in a war zone, if you catch an IED to your legs and some guy comes running up to you and shoots you up with some morphine, that's a very good use for morphine, and you will love the fact that morphine exists when you've got your legs blown off. Or in my case, I was in an accident one time, broke a whole bunch of bones. Pump me up with morphine, I'm feeling a lot better. If I would have had to go through, having my leg reset and having splints put on and off and all these different things without painkillers, that would have been absolutely horrible. You know what I mean? And so it's like, first of all, we need to contextualize what drugs are, the pros and cons of drugs, and actually educate people on what drugs are. You know what I mean? And it's like, when you just look back on the history of how we've treated drugs in general, and, I might be kind of on the fringe making the argument that drugs aren't something that we all need to flip out about. Now, I've never done heroin. I've never done cocaine. I've never done meth. I've never done any of these drugs. I've never had any desire to do any of those drugs. Now, I drink alcohol every now and then, and it's like the whole argument that drugs are somehow like this empirically bad, we'd never want to even talk about these things in any sort of positive light, it's like we're just being intellectually dishonest. We're not having rational discussions about these things. And so you've got these guys who, empirically are paid to make these arguments by companies who have, their businesses have vested interest in these markets. And so it's like, when you've got a senator who's coming out and arguing that, nicotine is horrible and blah, 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 blah. And oh, by the way, 10 minutes ago, he just got a check from Philip Morris. Because it's like, I don't need to hear anything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if a doctor has stocks in Vicodin and all he does is want to, prescribe people Vicodin for a minor headache, it's important that you know if that person has a vested interest in that market. For the same reason that it's important to know that if you're facing a conviction in court, you want to know if the judge is being bribed by the prosecutor. You know what I mean? These are important things to establish and take into consideration when we really try and absorb and take in the information and the different arguments that are being presented. And so I don't want to keep rambling on it, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean though, and that kind of goes towards every single pending legislation, every single bill going through, every FDA thing is all about. It's because their argument is that there's not enough scientific evidence that vaping helps quit smoking. There's not enough scientific evidence that it's safe for you. And at least the majority of the studies that have shown e-cigarettes to be negative on your body have been bunked. You know what I mean? Like the one, vaping at 5.6 volts on a 1.5 ohm coil, which, for a fact, like even at a sub-ohming, you're not going to vape up to 5 watts. At least me personally. I know some people are crazy, but I have a 0.2 ohm build right now and I'm barely pushing 4 volts. So it's like, you're increasing your temperature, but I think for a fact, I think what we were talking about before we turned on the camera when you were saying that, making a fake, like a fake worry, saying, you quoted somebody that basically we might regret being okay with e-cigarettes because 20 years down the road we might find there might be a health risk.
Yeah.
But, basically lawmakers aren't supposed to be, they're supposed to be proactive, but at the same time they're not supposed to be these omnipresent foresights. You know what I mean?
By its very concept and by its very definition is a reactionary entity.
Something happens.
In so much as government is for the people, by the people, of the people, and so on, is, when we have a concern, we can put this into legislation. That's the concept of government. So when you have politicians who want to usurp that entire process, and I was watching a documentary where they were interviewing the health commissioner for, it was either New York City or New York State or something like that, and he was just making the most absurd slippery slope kind of argument that basically, there's lots of good benefits to e-cigarettes, but maybe 10 years down the road, we might find that there aren't good benefits to it, and maybe we'll regret the fact that we haven't legislated the living shit out of it. And it's like, I don't have to take that argument seriously at all, and neither do you, because there's no proof of that. There's no logical proof of what he's saying. What he's doing is he's using a fear tactic. He's saying, "What if?" It's like if I make some argument
on a infant scale to explain it to people, it would be like saying you're telling your kids that the tooth fairy or the Easter bunny is real.
Yeah.
And then you're saying, okay, we're going to keep telling them they're real. We're going to lie to them. I mean, this is a little bit crazy, but we're going to lie to them because what if one day they end up being real?
Yeah.
I mean, because as far as the immediate evidence, no, Easter bunnies aren't real. The immediate evidence, no, tooth fairy isn't real. But the immediate evidence of vaping, there is a huge market, and they've seen the market blow up, and it's not because their argument that youth are vaping. The argument is now the market's blowing up because people are getting off cigarettes.
Yeah.
People are quitting the stinkies and getting on vaping. Yeah. And so it is working. I don't think a market would explode unless it was working, but they're trying to say the market's exploding because little Johnny stole his mommy's credit card and ordered online. Oh no, now we need to make sure that we check IDs online. And
you have a bunch of legislators basically saying that people are too stupid to know what they want or what they should have or shouldn't have, and so, the magic hand of legislators need to decide all of these things for you, and you're just too stupid to make these decisions for yourself. And, we take any number of risks at any time throughout the day, anytime throughout our life. You know what I mean? It's like we get in cars every day. We understand exactly how dangerous cars are, but cars are a great utility to get us to and from another place, point A to point B. We accept the possible risks of driving cars. That's fine. You know what I mean? And it's like, when even say, like, the argument that, well, kids are vaping, is like, and I think I made this analogy to you earlier, and I recognize that it's kind of an edgy argument, but it's like, people will say, hey, we're having more and more issues of cancer. Cancer is a very big problem. And absolutely, nobody's going to argue with you that cancer is a big problem. But we also have to take into the effect that one of the reasons that people are living long enough to get cancer is the fact that we don't die when we're 30 years old like we did 150 years ago. You know what I mean? Our lifespans have nearly tripled. And so now we're having issues of, what happens when you live past 30.
But
and it's like
cancer also, you have infants, you have kids that are born with cancer.
Well, yeah, it's not.
But also that comes into, not to get all greeny and stuff with people, but that's a lot to have to do with how food's processed. There's tons.
There's lots of arguments.
There's tons of things, but usually like elderly cancer that's set later in life.
Yeah.
It is because your body is basically breaking down and you no longer have, say, immune system. We're not doctors. We're just saying.
Yeah.
Your immune system can't fight anything anymore.
Yeah.
And so basically the free radicals, so to speak, in your body basically fights, and then that's, you can get cancer in almost any orifice of your body. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's all I'm saying is that, it's I'm not trying to make a positive thing out of the fact that more and more people have cancer, but there is a positive aspect when you look at that objectively and say that, the fact that we're not all dying in our mid-20s and 30s is a good thing. And so in the same sense, it's like people are making this argument that, kids are getting a hold of e-cigarettes. And it's like, first of all, you and I know, and just about probably anybody watching this, when you were under 18, you could still get cigarettes. Yeah. Just because there was
You do exactly what your parents don't want you to do.
Yeah, well, and you can go anywhere and get cigarettes. There's people who, the black market, you can buy cigarettes from the guy on the street corner. You can go and ask somebody to buy you cigarettes. Like, it's illegal, but people will still do it. You know what I mean? People are going to respond to the incentive of money.
It's just not readily available.
Yeah.
And even e-cigarettes are not readily available because if you look at the majority of companies online, and that's another thing, a lot of states are trying to ban online sales, ban online distribution out or in. It's like you're basically waiting on the fact. It's like your kid sneaks onto your kid sneaks onto your computer and watches porn.
Yeah.
That's 18 years and older.
Yeah.
That could mess up his mind. That could make him totally a sex fiend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it happens.
Yeah.
And I think the whole thing with, the whole thing of having nicotine be like this scary thing that we want to keep away from children, yeah, absolutely, but we want to keep away from ourselves too. So educate ourselves on, we don't want to use too high of nicotine because we could get sick for a little bit. I mean, you kind of know the symptoms when you start getting too much nicotine.
Yeah.
But for a kid, starts drinking it. The thing is, I feel like a lobbyist should taste non-nicotine juice. Because, it tastes okay, but for a average child who's used to extremely sweet stuff, it's not going to be flavorful. It has almost a bitter taste to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you don't really taste it until it's vaporized, you know what I mean? And then with nicotine in it, then it has even a harsher taste. And I'm pretty sure, if I was a kid and I even tried to put a drop in my mouth just to see what it tastes like, I'd be like, hell no. It's like a bitter taste, it's like a bitter dent. And so that argument is really vague because it's just like, you're not going to save the children. Like, I know these lobbyists want to save the children because that's really what their push is. And it's just like, they have to pull on these heartstrings that'll get everybody riled up about it. Oh, yeah, we don't want our kids doing it. Well, it's like the thing is, once your kids, say, middle school, high school, junior high, high school, and they have more free time alone, they have more, time in school, they have more time away, you're letting them be more independent, there's nothing to say that they're not going to do something you don't want them to do when they're in that perspective. But I mean,
it's kind of like if you use the argument, of contraceptives versus abstinence, and you look at areas that promote abstinence and the just say no kind of idea of don't have teen sex, and it's like, well, those areas just skyrocket. You know what I mean? Just going crazy. Everybody's fucking everybody. And it's like, but then when you look at places where they're just handing out condoms and birth control or whatever, all of a sudden, well, magically, you have, when people are educated about these things, the uses of them go down and the safety involved in it goes way, way up. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's what I was starting to say with even the argument that kids are using e-cigarettes, is it's like, you can go and find, you can ask our dad, you can go find anybody who, was born in the 50s, 60s, 70s, anybody you meet will tell you, yeah, of course I could get cigarettes in school. You know what I mean? Of course I could. There's kids in my school who are selling the cigarettes, and there's even parents who would buy the cigarettes for their kids, and then they take them to school and sell them. You know what I mean? So it's like, but what nobody's really saying, which should be said, is, hey, it's a good thing that kids are getting e-cigarettes rather than cigarettes. You know what I mean? Is it's like, if you have to pick between the two, we pick these. If you have to pick between no sex or having sex with condoms, you pick the condom, because then you don't have a kid.
Well, you have the kids. You have the kids that are these, and again, they're studies. It's kind of like if you go up to somebody in public, right? You're walking down, you're asking them honestly, or say you're someone like the FDA, and you're trying to say, let's talk about weed for a second. You go down and you just ask the average person, "Have you smoked weed?" And so they're getting these studies based on that type of, whether
someone's honest with that question.
Yeah, and so it's like, well, so many kids have said that they have tried cigarettes or they have tried e-cigarettes. It's like, yeah, but there's probably a lot who say that they don't try cigarettes, or who smoke cigarettes, who don't want anybody to know. Of course. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, they think that they're making this, this factual evidence of percentages of kids who started smoking cigarettes or kids who started doing something, but it's just like, you're talking to a kid who already knows they're doing something bad, that their parents don't want them to do, that you don't want them to do, that their school doesn't want them to do, that their peers would probably look down them on doing it, although the majority of their peers are probably doing something stupid.
Yeah.
And so then that's where you get all these arguments for these bills, because then you're like, oh, save the youth. But it's just like, you're basically pointing a gun at people's faces and saying, tell me yes or no.
Well, I'm a firm believer that taking responsibility away from people is not the way that you solve an issue. And so to pretend like it's somehow the responsibility of the state or states to regulate e-cigarettes and protect children it's like, if you have a bottle of bleach under your sink and you're a parent, you have a young child, you have to keep those things out of an area that's accessible to your child,
and also educate
them as to why they should not mess with it. You can't drink the bleach because the bleach will kill you or make you very sick, and therefore we have to keep the bleach out of your reach.
And not just leave it at I think a lot of reason is parents, and not saying that like I'm a great parent, but parents will do the scare tactic, just don't do this, it'll kill you. Well, sit down, and even if they're a young age, try to explain to them, that this is a poisonous substance if it's consumed too much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're consistent enough, it will get through, you know what I mean? It will, no matter what.
With the whole subject of, what the effects of nicotine are, and what the effects that this might possibly have on children, we have to be empirical. We have to be logical.
And so what does empirical mean?
Empirical is we can test and observe these things through the five senses. This isn't just, a faith-based argument that, well, I believe this because I want to believe this, and nothing you say to me is going to change my mind. that we have to actually know and understand what these things are, and we have to teach these things to each other and to children, and education is always a better solution than just telling people you're too dumb to actually know what this is. And it's like, you know, when we've already established 60 years into an attempt to reel in drugs from the hands of normal citizens, that the drug war has been an epic, catastrophic failure. And it has not only failed to limit addiction and abuse of drugs, but it's even argued that it accelerated it and made it grow multiple times over. And it's like, you know, but before we enacted drug laws and before it was illegal to buy cocaine or whatever else, people would have to talk about these things rationally, discuss them rationally, and make decisions based on logic and empirical evidence. And now we just have this kind of idea that, well, you know, some legislator said it was bad and therefore it's bad, and it takes, you know, 50, 60 years before we can even have a logical, rational argument or discussion about that subject. And we're seeing that in so many different aspects. Say with cannabis legislation, you have the whole debate of, you know, states that are legalizing it. Should they legalize it? Should they only use it for medicinal use? Should it be legalized for recreational use? Blah, 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 blah. But when you actually go back, and this plays into what I was talking about actually understanding what these things are. When you actually go back to the history of just taking cannabis, it's like this had so much to do with catering to businesses like, what was it? And I might be completely wrong on the company, but it was DuPont made a patent on nylon, and you can make nylon out of hemp. Not to mention that hemp was a direct, in direct competition to cotton farmers. You had all these other different things, and you know, so we had to smear this whole thing with no empirical evidence, no empirical studies. There had to be no proof about anything. We don't like it because it's bad, and we're going to tell you it's really scary, and you need to believe us because we're really, really emphatic about what we're saying. And it's like, you know, if arguments aren't based on logic, if they're not based on reason, if they're not based on empirical evidence, then we don't have to take them seriously. Yeah. And that's really my approach to the whole topic of e-cigarette legislation is, you know, all of these arguments like maybe the kids might get them, maybe in 15 years we might find out they're bad, maybe whatever, it's like we don't make laws based off maybes. We don't make universal principles of physics based off of maybes. Like, maybe somewhere behind Jupiter there's, you know, a square circle floating around in its orbit. You know what I mean? It's maybe doesn't do anything for us. And so the only things that we actually can argue, the only things we actually can discuss are things that are empirical and things that are logical. Other than that, in the world of speculation, we can come up with anything. What if I hit my e-cigarette and I turn into a purple unicorn? You know what I mean?
Could happen.
You don't have to take that seriously.
I think if you're vaping unicorn milk,
maybe if I had some unicorn milk,
or unicorn farts.
But it's just to say that, you know, honestly, I think that one of the mistakes that a lot of people are making with the whole e-cigarette legislation subject is even entertaining absurd, illogical arguments, especially ones that are based off of completely false premises. And it could even be argued that it's an intentional misdirection from what these things actually are. When you have, you know, you've got senators and legislators who are sitting there pounding on their tables calling nicotine a neurotoxin and it's a poison and we know this and blah, 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 blah. No, we don't. No, we don't. We know actually something completely contrary to that. We know empirically that nicotine is in the same drug category as caffeine. Stop comparing it to heroin. Your premise is false. Therefore, we don't have to go any further with that argument. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, until we really demand... I mean, first of all, you have to acknowledge that legislators have absolutely no requirement to, you know, carry out the wishes of those that they represent. They can do whatever they want. That's why, you know, lobbyists and companies that are large enough that they can pay people full-time to be lobbyists, they can pretty much just argue for whatever they want, and they're doing it for the incentive of that business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, if you really believe that Philip Morris is sending lobbyists to Washington because they're really concerned with the effects of smoking, then you should really, really rethink that, or just have a basic knowledge of how businesses work. You know what I mean? That would be in direct conflict with their bottom line, which is why they're buying into the e-cigarette market, because now it's affecting their bottom line. It's affecting the bottom line of pharmaceutical companies, Nicoderm, CQ, Chantix, whatever it's called, the gum, Nicorette, you know what I mean? Those are all owned by pharmaceutical companies, so now that there's less people smoking cigarettes, and they have more alternatives, then they're not spending as much money on those things. So, hey, let's buy a law. And it seems like that's kind of, you know, the culture of the U.S. as far as laws go. And it's like, I think that we should stand our ground in the fact that making illogical arguments based off of maybes, what ifs, and, you know, it might be bad if in 20 years, that doesn't do anything for us. That's not empirical. That's not logical. Mm-hmm. That's just a fear-mongering kind of tactic.
But I think if e-cigarettes do get banned, I feel like anybody who vaped should just get on cigarettes and ban those, because if we're going to ban these and ban the devices and say that they're, you know, drug paraphernalia, like some states are trying to do that, it's like, why don't we just do that to cigarettes and just get rid of it, period?
Well, yeah.
But the thing is, it's money. It goes back to the big money. We have
the whole sin tax concept that, you know, we make all of this money off of the fact that cigarettes are made, and then we tax it because it's kind of bad, and so we don't want you to do it, and so if we tax you, then you'll be less inclined to do it. And I mean, I would argue that that's an illogical premise to begin with, because it's you know, it's basically saying that A plus B is the same as B plus A, and it's not the case. It's, you know, the argument with sin taxes is that if you have to pay money in order to do something, then you'll be less inclined to do something. It's argued that it's a negative incentive, as with the first rule of economics.
Even with the tax on tobacco, that never stopped anything. It's bigger now.
Well, that's my point. That's my point. There's empirical evidence that illogical premise doesn't work.
Alcohol tax. You know what I mean? It doesn't stop anything.
No, it doesn't. And the argument that we need to regulate and control a solution to smoking, people want to try and call it like an alternative, is like free market enterprise created an alternative for the first time in thousands of years of tobacco use that is a safe alternative to tobacco use, as far as we understand it, at least now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the free market has made this. The free market has innovated this and re-innovated this, and everything that you see within e-cigarettes, the fact that it's increased to a $2 billion market, the fact that it's, you know, such a huge business and so many jobs are being created just in this industry alone.
It's because kids are using them.
Well, and so it's like, but when you really look at what e-cigarettes are and why the industry is so explosive, is because it's a solution to a problem. And now you have people who, you know, when you start talking about how much tobacco companies pay legislators and lobbyists to actually make laws, you know,
so that they can sell tobacco.
So that they can sell tobacco, and so that they can, you know, I mean, all of the cigarette market is owned by like 4 or 5 massive companies, if even that. You know what I mean? And so it's like, once you regulate this, then companies that are large enough to not compete with, you know, because you can think of all sorts of friends of yours that you have as a product of doing this YouTube channel. You can think of all sorts of people who have created full-time businesses based off of, you know, making mods, making e-cigarettes, making websites to sell mods and juice and all that different stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you can think of all sorts of people who have done that, and how many of those people would be able to compete with Philip Morris making e-cigarettes? No one. No one would.
I honestly, I mean, there are some big companies out there, but I really doubt if they're going to be, I mean, talking about like $10,000, like the California, I believe something like $10,000 for not a patent, but kind of like basically to release one flavor, 10,000, and then even FDA, getting the FDA involved, you're like looking upwards of $1 million for one.
Well, because don't forget who's setting those standards, which is the tobacco lobbyists who are lobbying for the legislation which means the incentive for them is that they can set the standard for, okay, how much do you have to pay the FDA in order to make and approve your e-cig juice? You know, those are the people who get to choose that. Not you, not me, not the average voter.
Yeah.
We have very little to do in the actual writing of the legislation. We can weigh in with our opinions and our viewpoints, and that's kind of what we're doing here. You know what I mean? But as far as what would be the price, like you're saying, $10,000 to make an e-juice and have it vetted by the FDA, and it's like, you know, the people who are setting those standards are people who can buy into that market and can compete with that kind of prices. But
most of the companies probably haven't even made $10,000 profit.
Yeah.
I mean, a good majority of your smaller companies probably haven't, you know, profit. I'm talking about like over the top. They have not made $10,000 over the top because there's so much upfront costs of, I mean, if you're doing it in a certified lab, if you're being legit about it, you know, over the top, it would take you a good while to make that much profit because most of these e-juice companies are one person, two people, 5 people, friends, people who probably aren't even working for a decent salary. You know what I mean? Like, but I mean, not to just keep ranting about this, but basically what we're trying to just have a conversation about, or what he's talking about, and I'm listening basically, is all of this stuff. We're just trying to explain it to the people who, because it's like, okay, you have this thing now that you love to do. It's changed your life. You no longer have to smoke cigarettes. You no longer feel like absolute crap all the time. But you're ignorant to the fact that it's not even a joke. Like, I know most of my videos are funny. Like, I try to be a funny person because, you know, lighten up a little bit. You know, chill the hell out and just enjoy yourself. But at the same time, like, literally, if this happens, me personally, I will stop making videos. Because there's nothing to review. I'm not going to show you because I'm not going to show you what menthol and light menthol and tobacco and, you know, light tobacco. Like, I'm not going to waste my time on this because, you know, I spend a good amount of time doing videos, researching, enjoying it because it's a hobby to me. Like, I love it. My brother loves it. You know, it's something that we kind of just bounce back and forth, and this is what we came up with. Like, we began vaping, you know, watching YouTube reviews, but mostly it was just we both screwed up a bunch of times and corrected each other until we got it down. And the thing is, all your favorite YouTubers, they're not going to have channels anymore. All your favorite vape shops are going to be gone. You already see vape shops are closing down. And it's like, this whole conversation, I know it's going on for like 40 minutes. This whole conversation is to basically explain to you, this is not a joke. There's nothing funny about regulation. There's nothing funny about legislation. It's a real thing. And it will happen. And I know there's a lot of people who are the underground and they'll say, well, I'll make my own juice. I'll, you know, make my own mods. I'll do all of this stuff. It's like, yeah, but the thing is, you're not an engineer. You don't have a machine shop. Some people might. But once you create these, essentially it's like... if
we don't want to have to create a black market for e-cigarettes.
Well, I mean, we don't want... we want a free market because that's the only way we have come to where we are in vaping is because we've created a free market. We've literally... And you see that, and the same thing with, like you were saying, with computers, technology. You created these free markets with technology. And yeah, you have some companies that are proprietary in computers. But computers would not be, like, we would not have phones this freaking intelligent and smart if we didn't have a free market system. And the thing is, yeah, there's some things in e-cigarettes that could improve and that are improving. You see... once a week, especially the e-cigarette market, it's changing. Once a week, you hear about something new coming out. Because innovation is always moving up because there's a market for it. So as soon as that's gone, you're back to either smoking, you know, analog, I call them analog, or HD. You know, like I would still call the views SD, but the thing is, so like that is the argument. So we're sitting here for, what's the time? You know, 45 minutes. And if you've gotten this far, thank you. But basically the main thing is you have local call to actions. You have, and you don't even have to contact me, ask me, kind of like what Grim Green said. If you have to contact one of the reviewers and ask them how to contribute, come on. Like, we live in a technology age, and if you're on YouTube watching this right now, you already know what to do. It's called the Google. Go to Casaa, go to advocacy websites, look at call to actions. There's links in description box below on this video. You have SFATA, you have Casaa, you have Vaping Militia, you have all these organizations that have literally made it WYSIWYG for you. If you don't know what that is, basically means you go in there, you enter your stuff, you copy and paste, and it, what you see is what you get. WYSIWYG. That's basically what's happening with this. It's not hard. It's not like you have to go and get your law degree. You don't have to go become a lawyer.
Yeah,
you don't have to become...
I'm a complete amateur. I can't say that everything that I have said is completely empirically backed, and I've made no mistakes. I'm just, popping off from the top of my head.
But even the mistakes you made, you sound more intelligent than what the deeming regulations are.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're making more sense.
That's my only point. Is what we can do as a vaping community is be logical. We can be empirical. We can argue, and we have logic on our side.
Exactly.
That we can make these arguments that the free market has created a solution to tobacco, and we're continuing to innovate that solution. We're continuing to make that solution easier to be accessible by other people. And, as far as I see it, and I know that I might not be in line with every single one of your viewers, but the government wants to come in and get their hands into that. And it's like, we figured out early back in the 80s that, if we tried to regulate computer technology, we'd completely crash the entire market. We'd completely stifle innovation. And we were very smart to say that we're not going to touch this market, because this market needs to innovate. This market needs to grow. This market needs to be accessible by the world. And
essentially, you wouldn't be watching this video on YouTube today.
Exactly, absolutely.
If we made stupid arguments.
Yeah, if we would have made dumb arguments and say, what if computers, turned into Skynet and made all these scare tactics, then we wouldn't be having this conversation on, an HD camera that could be uploaded into YouTube in an hour and edited on, a graphic user interface powered computer, and we wouldn't have those technologies. So it's like, even the fact that we're sitting here having this conversation is because we didn't regulate this technology.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so if I have any last words in any of it, it's just that the only pragmatic solution to this conversation is to make logical arguments, to be empirical, to be rational, and to not succumb to this whole fear-mongering, fear tactic kind of thing. And ultimately, we just need to respond to people who are trying to, capture the market with regulations, that this is not a market that we're willing to give up to tobacco companies.
Yeah.
We have already found a solution to tobacco, and we're not willing to yield it to some company that has enough money to buy us out.
I think you would agree. Basically, what you're trying to say at the same time is, when you do contact these people, when you contact through these call to actions, don't be as ignorant and just downright stupid as the people who are making these laws.
Yeah.
Don't be
absolutely.
that stupid.
Yeah.
Don't be disrespectful. Don't just say "F you, I love vaping." Like you're going to be. That's going to be disregarded. You're being an idiot at that point.
Yeah.
Make actual evidence. You as a person are evidence. You have to realize that. You see that hashtag I'm proof all the time? A lot of people don't even understand what the hell that means. You're proof. You're proof that vaping actually works. It is an alternative. We don't know all the details yet. Yes, we don't know all the scientifical things going on, all the things up in the hemisphere. I don't even know what hemisphere. But don't be as stupid as they are. If you're going to go and contact, or if you're going to call your representative, you're going to actually fight against these people, don't be stupid. Be very smart in what you were saying. Think about what you're saying. Take an extra 5 minutes, because it only takes 5 minutes. So there's 10 days out of your life. You know, don't watch The Walking Dead. You know, DVR The Walking Dead, and you don't have to watch it live. That's all you got to do. You know, the time you would spend watching a video, or, you know, even watching this video, turn off this video right now, spend the rest of the time doing a call to action, because really that's the only thing that's going to happen. If we just say, oh, well, you know, F the government, nothing's ever going to happen, you know, we're just going to keep vaping. No, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So without more yapping and stuff, let's have a vape. So, this has been a very long video. This is probably the longest vlog type video I've put on, and it's only because it means something to us. It means something to me. Just being able to help all the people that I've helped, seeing firsthand that this is a safer alternative, just seeing, you know, my brother being heavy on cigarettes and then getting off it like easy. You know what I mean? Like, even me, it's just like seeing firsthand that this is actually something that works, and it sucks. Like, you almost want to get upset about it, but if you get upset about it, you're just going to turn into what all the lobbyists are doing. You're just going to get this crazy, you know, nonsense, and you're just going to not speak out of actual thinking. You're not thinking, you're just being angry about it, and out of anger we can say a lot of stupid things. So again, I just say it, don't just be calm when you're writing. Don't be upset about it. Think about it and realize that yes, they're just trying to scare you. They're trying to just cut this out of the picture because it scares them. That's basically what I'm saying. So thank you, No Name Nimbus, for coming on. And personally, I don't want to go back to these. I don't know what I'll do if that comes down. I probably will just go underground and start doing my own stuff, but I don't want that. You know what I mean? I don't want to waste my personal time when there's plenty of, you know, super smart people that could just do this, and they're good at this. You see so many companies that are good at this market. They're doing great things. They're innovating every year. You got this new technology coming out, this new style, this new thing. And if it just goes down to just this underground thing that we do, we're not going to have anywhere near. We're just going to keep trying to replicate something we already had. We're not going to try to keep thinking beyond it because you don't have the capital, you don't have the sales, you don't have the industry anymore, you don't have, you know, the competition. Especially the competition is what drives the innovation. So it's just like, I don't know. Now this is about an hour-long video. So yes, as always, stay classy and keep vaping, as I always say. And look in the description box below to all the call to actions. Go join, be a member of Casaa, understand what they're doing. They're doing great work all over the place. Definitely check out Dimitri. Check out his vlog type thing that he does. And just get more active in advocacy, because it's the only way we're going to save this. We're going to get this to not be just stifled and shut out. And it's not a joke. There's nothing funny about this. There's nothing... we can laugh at it because it sucks so much, you know what I mean? But, without more rambling, that is all. And as always, if you like this video, please like it. And if you like my videos in general, please subscribe. And we'll talk to you later.